What would you do if your husband handed you divorce papers after seeing something he shouldn't have? How can one walk home with a stranger end up ruining an entire marriage? I never thought a single night would have legal consequences, but the documents in my hand said otherwise. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The bass thumped through the crowded downtown bar as I clutched my third Cosmopolitan, feeling more alive than I had in months. My friends Sarah and Jessica were already tipsy, encouraging me to let loose and remember what fun feels like. At 32, I felt ancient compared to the 20-somethings gyrating on the dance floor, but tonight I was determined to reclaim some piece of my youth. "Morwenna, you're being way too responsible," Sarah slurred, pushing another drink toward me. "When's the last time you did something spontaneous?" I couldn't remember. Between my job as a data analyst and managing 6-year-old Sophie's schedule, spontaneity had become a foreign concept. My husband Elliot was always so methodical, so planned out. Every weekend mapped to the minute, every vacation budgeted months in advance. Sometimes I felt like I was suffocating in our suburban routine. That's when Liam appeared. He was working behind the bar, all tousled dark hair and easy smile. Maybe 29, with the kind of confidence that comes from being naturally charming. When he handed me my fourth drink, his fingers lingered against mine. "You look like you could use some cheering up," he said, leaning closer so I could hear him over the music. "Is it that obvious?" I laughed, surprised by how good his attention felt. Beautiful woman sitting alone while her friends are dancing. Yeah, pretty obvious. The compliment hit me like a drug. When was the last time Elliot had called me beautiful? When was the last time anyone had looked at me like I was worth pursuing, instead of just another responsibility to manage? My phone buzzed. A text from Elliot. "How's girls' night? Home by midnight?" I stared at the message, irritation flaring. Even when I was out, he was checking up on me, setting expectations. I shoved the phone back in my purse without responding. "Controlling boyfriend?" Liam asked, noticing my expression. "Husband," I corrected, then immediately felt stupid for mentioning it. "Ah." His smile didn't waver. "Well, he's not here, is he?" By closing time, I was thoroughly drunk and thoroughly smitten. My friends had left an hour earlier, but I'd stayed, mesmerized by Liam's easy conversation and the way he made me feel like the only woman in the room. When he offered to walk me home, I said yes without thinking. The night air was crisp against my flushed cheeks as we walked through the quiet suburban streets toward my house. Liam kept up a steady stream of flirtatious banter, and I found myself laughing more than I had in months. He told me about his band, his dreams of making it big, his philosophy about living in the moment, everything Elliot wasn't. "You seem too interesting to be stuck in suburbia," he said as we turned onto my street. "Sometimes I feel that way too," I admitted, the alcohol making me more honest than I should have been. When we reached my front door, Liam stepped closer. "I had a great time tonight, Morwenna. Maybe we could do this again sometime." I knew I should say no. I knew I should thank him politely and go inside to my sleeping husband and daughter. Instead, I found myself nodding. "I'd like that," I whispered. He leaned in and hugged me, his arms strong around my waist. The embrace lasted longer than it should have, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years, desired, wanted, alive. When he finally pulled back, his eyes held a promise that made my heart race. "I'll text you," he said, pressing a piece of paper with his number into my hand. As I watched him walk away, I felt a pair of headlights flash across the street. A car was idling at the curb, but I was too drunk and too giddy to pay attention. I fumbled with my keys and slipped inside, my mind already spinning with possibilities I had no business entertaining. I woke up the next morning with a pounding headache and a gnawing sense of guilt. Sunlight streamed through our bedroom curtains, and I could hear Sophie's cartoon playing downstairs. Elliot's side of the bed was already made. He was always an early riser, probably grading papers in his home office before heading to the high school where he taught history. The events of the previous night felt fuzzy around the edges, but Liam's phone number was still crumpled in my purse, proof that it hadn't been just a dream. I stared at those 10 digits, my stomach churning with a mixture of excitement and shame. "Morning, sleepyhead," Elliot said from the doorway, holding a cup of coffee. His tone was neutral, but something in his eyes made me nervous. "Thanks," I mumbled, accepting the mug gratefully. "Sorry I got in so late. The girls really wanted to keep the party going." "How late was late?" he asked casually, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I don't know. Maybe 1:30, I lied, knowing it had been closer to 3. "That's pretty late for a work night." His voice remained level, but I caught the subtle criticism. "It was Saturday night, Elliot. I'm allowed to have fun occasionally." "Of course you are. I just worry about you walking around downtown that late. Did you take an Uber home?" The question hit me like ice water. I hadn't taken an Uber. I'd walked with Liam. But I couldn't tell Elliot that without opening a conversation I wasn't ready to have. "I was fine," I said evasively. "You don't need to worry about me so much. I saw a man walking you to the door last night." The words hung in the air between us like a bomb waiting to explode. My coffee mug suddenly felt too heavy in my hands. "What?" I tried to sound confused rather than panicked. "I was coming back from the store and saw you with someone. A younger guy. Who was he?" My mind raced. Elliot had been watching. How much had he seen? The hug flashed through my memory, and I felt heat creep up my neck. "Oh, that," I said, forcing a laugh. "Just some guy from the bar. Sarah's friend, I think. He was heading this direction anyway, so he walked with me. It's not safe for women to walk alone at night, right? I thought you'd appreciate me being careful." The lie came so easily it scared me, but Elliot's expression remained skeptical. "Sarah's friend? Yeah, I barely talked to him. Just walked together for safety." Another lie, smoother than the first. "He hugged you." "Did he? I was pretty drunk, Elliot. Maybe he was just being friendly. You know how touchy people get when they've been drinking." I watched his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. "Right. Friendly. Are you seriously going to interrogate me about some random guy walking me home? I thought you'd be happy that I got home safely instead of stumbling around alone." "I'm not interrogating you, Morwenna. I'm just trying to understand." "Understand what? That you don't trust me?" I let indignation creep into my voice, turning defense into offense. "I go out one night in months, and you're acting like I committed some crime." "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying? Because it sounds like you're accusing me of something." Elliot stood up, running a hand through his graying hair. "I'm not accusing you of anything. I saw what I saw. And what you saw was your wife being responsible and accepting help getting home safely. If that bothers you, maybe the problem isn't me." He stared at me for a long moment, and I held his gaze, daring him to push further. Finally, he shook his head. "Maybe you're right. I'm sorry. I guess I was just surprised." Victory. I'd successfully turned his reasonable concern into an apology, but instead of feeling relieved, I felt sick. The rest of the morning passed in tense politeness. Elliot made breakfast for Sophie while I nursed my hangover, and we moved around each other like strangers. When he left for his weekend soccer coaching, he kissed my cheek like always, but it felt perfunctory. After he was gone, I noticed his car in the driveway and walked out to grab something from my own vehicle. That's when I saw it, or rather, didn't see it. Elliot's dashcam, which had been mounted on his windshield for years, was missing. My blood ran cold. Had he removed it, and if so, why? My phone rang, interrupting my spiraling thoughts. My mother's name flashed on the screen. "How was girls' night, honey?" Joanne Harper's voice was bright with curiosity. "Fine, Mom. Just what I needed." "Good for you. You work so hard, you deserve to blow off some steam. I hope Elliot wasn't giving you grief about staying out late." I found myself telling her about our morning conversation, painting Elliot as paranoid and controlling. My mother, who had never been Elliot's biggest fan, immediately took my side. He needs to stop treating you like a child, Morwenna. You're a grown woman. If he can't trust you to go out with friends, that's his problem, not yours. Her validation felt good, but it also made me bolder. When I hung up, I found myself pulling Liam's number from my purse and staring at it again. Before I could lose my nerve, I typed out a text. "Thanks for walking me home last night. I had a great time talking with you." His response came within minutes. "Me too. Would love to continue the conversation sometime. Coffee this week?" I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. This was the line. Once I crossed it, there would be no going back to innocent explanations. "I'd love that," I typed, and hit send before I could change my mind. Monday morning at the office felt different. I couldn't shake the feeling that people were looking at me strangely, whispering when I passed their cubicles. By lunch, I knew something was wrong. "Morwenna, can we talk?" My coworker Janet approached my desk with an uncomfortable expression. "Sure, what's up?" "There's a photo going around. Someone posted it in the company group chat this weekend." My stomach dropped. "What kind of photo?" Janet showed me her phone, and there it was. A clear image of me and Liam embracing outside my front door, time-stamped at 2:47 a.m. Someone must have taken it from across the street, probably thinking it was just neighborhood gossip. Now it was making the rounds at my workplace. "Janet, I can explain." "You don't owe me an explanation," she said quickly. "But people are talking. You might want to get ahead of this." The rest of the day was torture. I could feel eyes on me everywhere I went, hear conversations stop when I approached. By 5 o'clock, I was ready to crawl under my desk and hide. My phone had been buzzing all day with messages from my friend group. The photo had made its way into our chat, and everyone wanted details. Sarah, "Girl, who is this hottie?" Jessica, "Morwenna getting her groove back." Rachel, my sister, "Call me, now." But it was the message from my mother-in-law, Patricia, that made my blood run cold. "We need to talk." I drove home in a daze, my mind racing with damage control strategies. How had a private moment become public humiliation so quickly? And more importantly, had Elliot seen the photo? I got my answer the moment I walked through the front door. Elliot was sitting at the kitchen table, his laptop open in front of him. Sophie was nowhere to be seen. "Where's Sophie?" I asked. "At my mother's. We need to talk." The laptop screen showed our company's internal website, and I could see the photo thread clearly displayed. My knees went weak. "Elliot, I can explain." "Can you? Because this looks pretty clear to me." His voice was eerily calm, which somehow made it worse than if he'd been yelling. "It's not what it looks like. It looks like my wife in another man's arms at 3 in the morning, despite telling me she was home by 1:30. I scrambled for the story I'd been rehearsing all afternoon. "He was just being friendly. I was drunk, remember? Maybe I was being too friendly back, but it didn't mean anything." "Who is he, Morwenna?" "I told you, Sarah's friend. I called Sarah. She's never seen him before in her life." The lie crumbled in my mouth. "Okay, fine. He's not Sarah's friend. He's a bartender from the club. But nothing happened, Elliot. He walked me home. We hugged goodnight. That's it." "You lied to me." "I didn't want you to worry." "You lied to me," he repeated, his voice getting harder. "About who he was, about what time you got home, about what happened. What else are you lying about?" "Nothing." "God, Elliot, you're being paranoid. So what if I talked to some guy at a bar? So what if he walked me home? I'm married, not dead." "Have you been in contact with him since?" The question hit like a physical blow. Liam and I had been texting all day, making plans for coffee on Wednesday. But I couldn't tell Elliot that. "No," I said, the lie burning my throat. He stared at me for a long moment, then closed the laptop. "I'm staying at my mother's tonight. I need some space to think." "You're leaving? Over this? Elliot, you're being ridiculous." "Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, my wife lied to me multiple times about spending the night with another man, And now there's photographic evidence all over the internet. It's not all over the internet, it's just, your co-workers have seen it, Morwenna. My mother has seen it. How long before Sophie's friends' parents see it? How long before my students see it? I hadn't thought about that. Elliot's reputation mattered for his job. If parents thought he couldn't manage his own household, it could affect his career. I'm sorry, I said, and for a moment I meant it. I should have been more careful, but nothing happened, I swear. I don't know what to believe anymore. After he left, I called my mother, desperate for support. She immediately launched into a tirade about Elliot's controlling behavior. He's trying to isolate you, honey, making you feel guilty for having a social life. This is classic emotional abuse. Do you really think so? Absolutely. Any man who can't handle his wife talking to other people has serious insecurity issues. You did nothing wrong. Emboldened by her support, I decided to take control of the narrative. I posted on Facebook about controlling partners who can't handle their spouse having friends, and shared an article about emotional manipulation in marriage. I made sure not to mention Elliot by name, but anyone who knew us would get the message. The responses were overwhelmingly supportive. Friends rallied around me, sharing their own stories of jealous husbands and offering solidarity. For a few hours, I felt vindicated. But then Rachel called. Morwenna, what the hell are you doing? What do you mean? This Facebook post, the photo, Mum told me about your conversation. Are you having an affair? No. God, why does everyone assume the worst? Because you're acting guilty as hell, and this passive-aggressive social media thing. That's not like you. I'm just tired of being treated like I can't be trusted. Elliot is being completely unreasonable. Is he? Because from the outside, it looks like you lied about spending the night with another man, and now you're trying to make Elliot look like the bad guy. Whose side are you on? I'm on the side of my sister not destroying her marriage over some bartender she met at a club. The call ended badly, with both of us hanging up angry. But Rachel's words stuck with me, especially when I saw that several friends had started liking Elliot's posts instead of mine, and a few had even unfriended me entirely. Tuesday morning brought a new horror. An email from Elliot with the subject line, "Meeting scheduled." The message was brief. "I've scheduled a meeting with a lawyer for Thursday at 2 p.m. Please plan to attend." I stared at the email in disbelief. A lawyer? Over one night out? But even as panic set in, part of me remained defiant. He was bluffing. He had to be. No one gets divorced over a photograph. This was just Elliot being dramatic, trying to scare me into submission. I was about to learn how wrong I was. The law office was sterile and intimidating, all glass and chrome with diplomas covering every wall. I sat across from Elliot at a polished conference table, a sharp-suited attorney named David Chen between us. The air conditioning was too cold, making me shiver in my carefully chosen innocent wife outfit. "Thank you both for coming," Mr. Chen began. "Elliot has asked me to review some materials and discuss potential next steps regarding your marriage." "This is insane," I interrupted. "We don't need lawyers. This is something we can work out at home." "Morwenna," Elliot said quietly, "please let him speak." Mr. Chen opened a thick folder and pulled out several documents. "I've reviewed the evidence your husband provided, Mrs. Foyle. I think it's important you understand the full scope of what we're dealing with." "Evidence?" I laughed nervously. "What evidence? A photo of me hugging someone? That's hardly grounds for divorce." "It's more than that," Elliot said, his voice maddeningly calm. "Show her." Mr. Chen pulled out a tablet and pressed play. Suddenly, I was watching myself from last Saturday night, filmed from inside a car. The dashcam footage was crystal clear, me stumbling slightly as Liam and I walked down the street, laughing and touching his arm. Then, the embrace at my door, which from this angle looked far more intimate than I remembered. The timestamp showed 2:47 a.m. "You were spying on me," I gasped. "I was coming home from the 24-hour pharmacy," Elliot replied. Sophie had a fever, remember? I needed children's Tylenol. I saw you from 3 blocks away. The next video was from our doorbell camera, showing the same embrace from a different angle. Liam's hands on my waist, my arms around his neck, the way I looked up at him like a teenager with a crush. The hug lasted 43 seconds. I could see the timestamp counting. "This proves nothing," I said, but my voice sounded weak even to me. "There's more," Mr. Chen said gently. He pulled out printed screenshots of text messages, my text messages with Liam from Monday and Tuesday. "How did you get these?" I demanded. "Our phone plan includes message monitoring," Elliot said, "for Sophie's safety. I never looked before, but after Saturday night." I read my own words with growing horror. The flirtatious messages, the plans for coffee, the complaints about my controlling husband. It all looked so much worse in black and white. "You had no right." "I had every right," Elliot cut me off, his composure finally cracking. "You're my wife, we share that account, and apparently it's a good thing I checked, because you've been planning to see him again." Mr. Chen cleared his throat. "Mrs. Foyle, I need to explain something. In this state, adultery affects divorce proceedings. It impacts asset division, alimony, and custody arrangements. Adultery, I never slept with him. Emotional adultery counts too," the lawyer explained, "and these messages, combined with the video evidence, establish a pattern of deception and inappropriate relationship development." I felt the room spinning. "This is ridiculous. We're talking about coffee. Coffee isn't adultery." "Coffee with a man you lied about, while making plans behind your husband's back and complaining about your marriage," Mr. Chen said. "The courts take a dim view of that behavior." Elliot pulled out another document, printouts of my Facebook posts from Monday night. "You also publicly humiliated me," he said, "posted about our private business, implied I was abusive, all while planning to meet another man." "I never said you were abusive. You shared an article about emotional manipulation and posted about controlling partners. Everyone knows we had a fight. What else are they supposed to think?" The evidence kept coming. Screenshots of the company group chat, where co-workers speculated about my affair. Messages from his mother expressing concern about Sophie being exposed to this situation. Even a concerned email from Sophie's teacher, who had heard gossip from other parents. "You've made this public, Morwenna," Elliot said. "It's affecting my job, Sophie's school environment, our families. I can't pretend it's just a misunderstanding anymore." "So what are you saying?" Mr. Chen slid a document across the table. "Your husband is filing for legal separation with the intent to divorce if the situation doesn't improve dramatically. He's also requesting primary custody of your daughter." "You can't take Sophie from me." "I don't want to," Elliot said, and for the first time, his voice broke slightly. "But I won't have her exposed to this behavior. If you're going to date other men, you won't be doing it in our house, around our daughter." "I'm not dating anyone." "Then why did you text him this morning asking if tonight was still good for drinks?" I stared at him in shock. I had texted Liam, but how did Elliot know about tonight's plans? "You're still monitoring my phone?" "Until this is resolved, yes." The betrayal felt crushing, even though I was the one who had been lying. "You can't do this. You can't spy on me and take my daughter and ruin my life over one night of fun." "I'm not ruining your life," Elliot said quietly. "You did that yourself." Just then, the conference room door burst open. My mother stormed in, her face red with indignation. "What is this nonsense about lawyers and custody?" she demanded. "Morwenna called me crying. Elliot, how dare you threaten to take Sophie away?" "Mrs. Harper," Mr. Chen began, "this is a private nothing. This is my daughter and granddaughter we're talking about. Elliot, you should be ashamed of yourself. So what if Morwenna talked to someone at a bar? She's young and beautiful and stuck in a boring marriage. Maybe if you paid more attention to your wife instead of your students, she wouldn't need to look elsewhere for conversation." "Mum, please," I whispered, mortified, but she was just getting started. "And threatening to take Sophie? That's parental alienation, Elliot. I'll fight you in court myself if I have to. Elliot stood up slowly, his face pale but determined. Mrs. Harper, your daughter lied to me repeatedly, planned to meet another man behind my back, and publicly humiliated our family. I'm not taking Sophie away from her mother. I'm protecting Sophie from the chaos her mother is creating. Chaos? She went out for one night. She's been texting him for 3 days. She has a date with him tonight. How is that one night? My mother looked at me sharply. Morwenna, is that true? I couldn't meet her eyes. It's just coffee, Mom. You told me you weren't interested in him. The room fell silent. Even my own mother was looking at me like she didn't recognize me. Mr. Chen cleared his throat. I think we should adjourn for today. Mrs. Foyle, you have 48 hours to review these documents and respond. If you choose to proceed with meeting Mr. Dre tonight, your husband will file the separation papers tomorrow morning. I looked around the room. At Elliot's disappointed face, my mother's confused expression, the lawyer's professional sympathy. Everything was falling apart, and somehow it was all my fault. Fine, I said, standing up on shaky legs. I won't see him tonight. It's too late for that, Elliot said sadly. The trust is broken, Morwenna. I don't know how to fix it. As I walked out of that office, I realized he was right. But instead of accepting responsibility, I felt anger building inside me. How dare he humiliate me like this? How dare he threaten my relationship with Sophie? I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. My heart pounded as I scrolled through them, each one worse than the last. Sarah. Morwenna, what the hell is happening? Patricia Foyle just called me asking about Saturday night. Jessica. Did you really lie about that guy? Everyone's talking about it. My sister Rachel. Mum told me about the lawyer meeting. Please tell me you're not actually having an affair. But it was the message from Sophie's teacher that made me feel physically sick. Mrs. Foyle, could you please call me? Sophie seems very upset today and mentioned that Daddy doesn't live at home anymore. I called the school immediately. Mrs. Patterson, this is Morwenna Foyle. I got your message about Sophie. Yes, thank you for calling. Sophie has been very withdrawn today. She told the other children that her parents are getting divorced because Mommy has a boyfriend. The other parents are concerned. My face burned with shame. That's not... It's complicated. We're just having some marital difficulties. I understand these things happen, Mrs. Foyle, but perhaps you could speak with Sophie about what's appropriate to share at school. Some of the other parents have been asking questions. After I hung up, I sat in my car in the school parking lot and cried. How had everything spiraled so completely out of control? 3 days ago, I was a respectable suburban mum. Now I was the subject of playground gossip. My phone rang. Elliot's name appeared on the screen. Hello? We need to talk about Sophie, he said without preamble. She's asking questions I don't know how to answer. What kind of questions? She wants to know why I'm staying at Grandma Patricia's. She wants to know who the man in the picture is. She wants to know if we're getting divorced. What did you tell her? The truth. That Mommy and Daddy are having problems and need some time apart. You told our 6-year-old daughter that we're getting divorced? I told her we're having problems. She's not stupid, Morwenna. She can feel the tension. I closed my eyes, trying to center myself. We need to fix this, Elliot, for Sophie's sake. I agree, that's why I'm filing the papers today. What? You said I had 48 hours. That was before Sophie started telling her class that Mommy has a boyfriend. That was before 3 different parents called me, asking if the rumors were true. That was before my principal pulled me aside to discuss whether this situation might affect my teaching position. The words hit me like physical blows. Your job is in jeopardy. When parents think your personal life is out of control, they question your ability to teach their children. Fair or not, that's reality. I felt panic rising in my chest. Elliot, please, let me fix this. I'll do whatever you want. It's too late, Morwenna. I'm picking up the papers in an hour. After he hung up, I sat in stunned silence. Then anger took over. This was all so unfair. Yes, I'd made some mistakes, but Elliot was destroying our family over what amounted to a few text messages and a hug. He was being vindictive and cruel, and I wasn't going to take it lying down. I drove straight to my mother's house. "Mom, I need your help. Elliot is trying to take Sophie away from me." Joanne Harper was already fired up from our conversation the day before. "That controlling bastard. Don't worry, honey. I've already called my lawyer friend Janet Morrison. She specializes in custody cases." "Really? Really?" And she says what Elliot is doing is called parental alienation, using the child as a weapon in divorce proceedings. "We can fight this." Her confidence was infectious. For the first time in days, I felt like maybe I wasn't completely powerless. What do I need to do? First, we document everything. Every time he keeps Sophie from you, every nasty thing he says, every way he tries to turn her against you. Second, we show that you're the primary caregiver. You know her schedule, her friends, her teachers. Third, we prove that he's the one creating an unstable environment by moving out and involving lawyers. It all sounded so reasonable when she put it that way. I wasn't the villain. I was the victim of Elliot's overreaction and controlling behavior. That afternoon, I decided to take back control of the narrative. I posted a carefully worded message on Facebook. "Going through a difficult time right now. It's amazing how quickly people judge when they don't know the whole story. Sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. Focusing on being the best mom I can be to my beautiful daughter. Single mom life. Stay strong." The response was immediate and supportive. Friends rallied around me, offering help and sharing their own divorce stories. Several people commented about what a great mother I was and how Sophie was lucky to have me. But then Jessica called. "Morwenna, we need to talk. Can you meet me for coffee?" Something in her tone made me nervous, but I agreed. When I arrived at our usual spot, Jessica wasn't alone. Sarah was there too, along with 2 other friends from our group. "What's this, an intervention?" I joked, but no one laughed. "Sit down," Sarah said gently. I sat, my stomach churning. Jessica pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. "This is from the group chat from Saturday night." I read my own words from 3 days earlier. "God, I just want someone to think I'm interesting again. Elliot treats me like a piece of furniture. This bartender actually listened to me, you know? Made me feel like I mattered." "I don't remember writing that," I said weakly. "There's more," Sarah said. She scrolled to another message. "Maybe I should just have an affair. At least then I'd feel alive again." My face went white. I had written that around 2 a.m. Sunday morning when I was still drunk and giddy from Liam's attention. "And this one," Jessica added, showing me a message from Tuesday. "Meeting him for drinks tonight. I know it's wrong, but I don't care anymore. I deserve to be happy." I stared at the evidence of my own words, my own intentions. There was no denying it now. "Morwenna," Sarah said gently, "you've been planning this affair for days. We have the screenshots. And now you're trying to make Elliot look like the bad guy." "He is the bad guy," I protested. "He's trying to take my daughter away." "Because you're cheating on him," Jessica snapped. "Or planning to. Same thing." "I never slept with Liam." "But you wanted to. You said so yourself, multiple times." The other friends nodded sadly. One of them, Maria, spoke up. "Morwenna, we love you, but we can't support this. Elliot is a good man, and Sophie needs stability. What you're doing, it's not okay." "So you're all taking his side?" "We're taking Sophie's side," Sarah said firmly. "And right now, that means supporting the parent who isn't having a breakdown and planning affairs." I left the coffee shop in tears, feeling completely abandoned. My own friends had turned against me. But instead of self-reflection, I felt only anger and self-pity. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, beautiful, you never showed up last night. Everything okay? Liam." I stared at the message. remembering how good his attention had felt. Everyone else was judging me, abandoning me, treating me like a villain. At least Liam still wanted me. Before I could stop myself, I typed back, "Sorry, family drama. Rain check?" His response was immediate. "Absolutely. You deserve better than drama. When you're ready for some fun, let me know." I smiled for the first time in days. Maybe everyone else had given up on me, but at least someone still thought I was worth pursuing. I was about to learn that some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. The courthouse was intimidating, all marble and mahogany, with the scales of justice looming over everything. I sat next to my mother's lawyer friend, Janet Morrison, trying to project confidence I didn't feel. Across the aisle, Elliot sat with his attorney, David Chen, looking calm and prepared. Judge Patricia Williams called the case to order. "We're here for an emergency custody hearing in the matter of Foyle versus Foyle. Mr. Chen, please present your client's case." What followed was the most humiliating hour of my life. David Chen methodically presented evidence I hadn't even known existed. The dashcam footage played on a large screen for the entire courtroom to see. My text messages with Liam were read aloud, including the ones from the past week where I'd continued flirting despite the separation filing. "Your Honor," Chen said, "Mrs. Foyle has engaged in a pattern of deception, infidelity, and public humiliation of the family unit. She has exposed the minor child to inappropriate adult situations and shown no remorse for her actions." "That's not true," I whispered to Janet, but she shushed me. Then came the witnesses. Sophie's teacher testified about my daughter's emotional distress and inappropriate sharing at school. Elliot's principal testified about the impact on his professional reputation. Even worse, several parents from Sophie's class testified about their concerns regarding my fitness as a mother. But the worst moment came when they called Rachel to the stand. My own sister walked to the witness box, avoiding my eyes. "Miss Harper," Chen began, "you've spoken with your sister extensively about this situation, correct?" "Yes. In your opinion, has she shown remorse for her actions?" Rachel was quiet for a long moment. "No. She keeps insisting she did nothing wrong. She blames Elliot for being controlling, blames her friends for not supporting her, blames everyone except herself. Has she expressed any intention to continue her relationship with Mr. Dre?" "Yes. Just yesterday she told me she was still texting him. She said if everyone was going to treat her like she was having an affair anyway, she might as well have one." I felt the blood drain from my face. I had said that, in a moment of anger and self-pity. But hearing it repeated in court made it sound so much worse. Janet Morrison did her best in my defense, painting me as a devoted mother going through a difficult time. She argued that Elliot was being vindictive and that taking Sophie away from her primary caregiver would be traumatic. But then Judge Williams asked me a direct question. "Mrs. Foyle, are you currently in communication with Mr. Dre?" I looked at Janet, who nodded for me to answer truthfully. "Yes, Your Honor." "Do you plan to continue that relationship?" The courtroom was silent. Everyone was staring at me, waiting for my answer. This was my moment to show remorse, to promise to do better, to put my daughter first. Instead, I felt defiant anger rise up in my chest. "I don't see why I shouldn't be allowed to have friends, Your Honor. My husband has blown this completely out of proportion. All I did was talk to someone who made me feel appreciated for once." The judge's expression hardened. "Mrs. Foyle, you're in the middle of divorce proceedings. Your actions have caused significant distress to your child and disrupted her school environment. Yet you're more concerned with your right to pursue other relationships than with your daughter's well-being." Too late, I realized my mistake. "No, Your Honor, that's not what I meant." "I've heard enough." Judge Williams shuffled her papers. "Based on the evidence presented, I find that Mrs. Foyle has engaged in behavior detrimental to the minor child's emotional well-being and stability. Primary custody is awarded to Mr. Foyle, with supervised visitation for Mrs. Foyle, pending completion of counseling and demonstration of stable behavior. The gavel fell like a death sentence. Furthermore, the judge continued, Mrs. Foyle is ordered to vacate the family home within 30 days and cease all contact with Mr. Dre during the pendency of these proceedings. I sat in stunned silence as the courtroom emptied around me. Elliot walked past without looking at me, his shoulders squared with quiet dignity. My mother was crying in the back row. Rachel approached hesitantly. Morwenna, I'm sorry, but I had to tell the truth. You destroyed my life, I whispered. No, she said sadly. You did that yourself. 3 weeks later, I was living in a studio apartment across town, working with a court-appointed therapist who specialized in destructive relationship patterns. I saw Sophie twice a week for 2 hours, always with a supervisor present. Elliot had been granted the divorce on grounds of adultery, despite the fact that I'd never actually slept with Liam. The emotional affair, the lies, and the public humiliation were enough. I lost half of our assets, got no alimony, and was ordered to pay child support. My friends had all distanced themselves from me. My co-workers treated me with professional politeness, but nothing more. Even my mother had started suggesting that maybe I needed to take responsibility for my choices. The final blow came when I tried to contact Liam, hoping for some comfort from the man who had started this whole mess. His response was brutal in its honesty. Hey, Morwenna, I heard about your divorce. Look, I think you got the wrong idea about us. I was just being friendly that night. I'm not looking for anything serious, especially with someone who has this much drama going on. Take care of yourself. I stared at that message for an hour, finally understanding the full scope of my destruction. I had lost my husband, my daughter, my home, my friends, and my reputation. And for what? For a bartender who saw me as nothing more than a drunk woman looking for validation. 6 months later, I sat in family court again, this time for the final divorce decree. Elliot looked healthy and confident, having rebuilt his life with dignity and tact. Sophie was thriving in his care, her grades improved and her emotional outbursts a thing of the past. Judge Williams signed the final papers with a stern look in my direction. Mrs. Foyle, I hope you've learned something from this experience. Your daughter deserves better than the chaos you created. As I walked out of that courthouse for the last time, I finally understood what everyone had been trying to tell me. I had destroyed my own life, one lie at a time, one selfish choice after another. The woman who had started this journey looking for excitement and validation was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Elliot walked past me on the courthouse steps, his head held high. He had won everything: custody, respect, a fresh start. But more than that, he had won by taking the high road, by being methodical and truthful while I had been chaotic and deceptive. Elliot, I called out, desperate for some final word, some closure. He turned back, his expression neutral but not unkind. I'm sorry, I said, for everything. He nodded once. I know you are. I hope you find whatever it was you were looking for. Then he walked away, leaving me standing alone on the courthouse steps, finally understanding that some mistakes can never be undone, and some trust, once broken, can never be repaired. The girls' night that had seemed like such innocent fun had cost me everything that mattered, and the worst part was, I had no one to blame but myself.